The Bulgarian Third Army was a Bulgarian field army during the Balkan Wars, World War I and World War II. Balkan Wars. After 1907, during times of peace, the territory of Bulgaria was divided into 3 army inspectorates, each one comprising 3 divisional districts. During war they formed 3 independent field armies. The Third Army Inspectorate, which had its seat in Ruse, formed the headquarters of the Third Army. On the 17th of September 1912, Tsar Ferdinand signed a special decree ordering the mobilization of the Bulgarian armed forces, and in accordance with the constitution of the country assumed the nominal role of commander-in-chief. The 3 Bulgarian field armies were activated and began concentrating on the border with the Ottoman Empire. The Third Army was placed under the command of Lieutenant General Radko Dimitriev and his Chief of Staff, Colonel Konstantin Zhustov. First Balkan War. The Chief of Staff of the Bulgarian Army, Major General Ivan Fishev, had devised the final plan for the war with the Ottoman Empire more than a year earlier. He realized that Bulgaria had to seize the initiative immediately after the outbreak of the war by conducting a large offensive in eastern Thrace. To achieve this task, the general deployed all 3 Bulgarian field armies in the vicinity of the Thracian border. The Third Army had a special role in the plan as it was deployed to the northeast of the First Army and its concentration in that area was concealed by the cavalry division. General Fishev expected that the Ottomans would remain unaware of this important force and General Dimitriev would shatter the right wing of the unsuspecting Eastern Army. On the 4th of October the Third Army had the following composition. On the 5th of October, Bulgaria declared war on the Ottoman Empire and its field armies began their advance against the Eastern Army, which was still mobilizing. By the 8th of October the Third Army had moved south and managed to align its front with that of the First Army without being detected by the Ottomans, proving General Fischev's expectations correct. The 2 Bulgarian armies were now ready to commence the attack on the Adrianople-Kirkilis line. The commander of the Ottoman army, Kulman Abdullah Pasha, under the pressure of his superiors, planned to attack the Bulgarians on the flanks and envelop them with his Third Corps and the forces of the Adrianople fortress. The lack of sufficient information led him to greatly underestimate the strength of the invading armies and had grave consequences for the Ottomans. On the 9th of October the Bulgarian High Command ordered its Third Army, which formed the left flank of the invading forces, to capture Kirkilis. This coincided with the beginning of the Ottoman offensive and the advance of the Third Corps against the Bulgarian left. Its commander, Mahmud Motar Pasha, expected weak resistance, but instead his 23 infantry battalions were pitted against the 48 infantry battalions of the Bulgarian 4th and 5th divisions when the 2 forces collided at the villages of Petra, Eskipolos and Alekla. In the ensuing struggle the Ottomans were overwhelmed and forced to retreat in panic, which meant that the planned encirclement of the Bulgarians was impossible. The remaining Ottoman forces further west were also suffering defeats and the overall situation deteriorated rapidly. Abdullah Pasha ordered a general retreat and abandoned the empire's most strategic defensive position on the Balkan Peninsula. In addition, more than 60,000 Ottoman troops were surrounded in Adrianople and the Bulgarian Third Army took Kirkilis on the 11th of October. With the end of the Battle of Kirkilis the Bulgarian High Command chose to rest its forces instead of vigorously pursuing the retreating Ottomans. The Ottomans used the time to establish a new defensive line. By the time the Bulgarian Third and First Armies resumed their advance, their opponents were thoroughly entrenched and reinforced. When the Battle of Lulburgas began, the Bulgarians were forced to engage in a direct frontal assault with around 108,000 riflemen against the 126,000 riflemen of the Ottomans. The Third Army was to bear the brunt of the fighting, as the First Army was forced to leave substantial forces to guard its rear and right flank in the direction of Adrianople. Despite the numerical superiority, the Ottoman armies were routed after a 5-day battle. The nature of the battle, however, also caused heavy casualties to the Bulgarians, especially in the ranks of the heavily engaged Third Army, which had some 15,561 men killed or wounded and 2,911 missing from its ranks. The losses and exhaustion of the soldiers again forced the Bulgarian command to order a couple of days' rest. When the Bulgarians continued the advance, the Ottoman army was entrenched at the last defensive line before Constantinople, the Chataldza defensive line. The Bulgarian Tsar's nominal commander-in-chief managed to impose his will over the Bulgarian High Command in favor of an attack of the Ottoman positions. Despite the objections to a rashly organized attack raised by General Ivan Fishev and the raging cholera in the armies, the opinion of General Mikhail Savov, who viewed an immediate attack as a tactical and strategic necessity, also supported Ferdinand's opinion. Thus General Dmitriev, now in command of a sort of an army group that combined the Bulgarian First and Third Armies, was tasked with the planning and execution of the attack on Chataldza on the 4th of November, and at least on paper could count on 175,000 men with 118,000 rifles against the Ottoman army's 140,000 men and 103,000 rifles. In reality, the available effective on both sides were reduced by a raging cholera epidemic. General Dmitriev's recent experience, however, made him prone to underestimating the Ottoman army and led him to commit only 14 regiments out of 38 in the attack. The rest he hoped to exploit after the Ottoman line was penetrated. This time, however, the Ottomans remained firm on almost all the positions and repelled all Bulgarian attacks supported by their artillery, which, unlike the previous battles, performed better than its Bulgarian counterpart. The result was a defeat and some 12,000 Bulgarian casualties, out of which some 8,451 were in the Third Army. The First and Third Bulgarian armies remained at the Chataldza line until the end of the war and managed to repel several Ottoman attempted breakthroughs in 1913. Second Balkan War. Almost immediately after the end of the First Balkan War, Bulgaria began to transfer its forces from eastern Thrace to Macedonia in order to protect its threatened interests in the area. By the beginning of June, most of the Bulgarian army was concentrated on the main theatre of operations in Vardar and Aegean Macedonia, against the Serbian and Greek armies. The Bulgarian High Command placed its First and Third Armies along the old Serbian border. As this area was viewed as a secondary theatre of operations, the strength of both armies was reduced significantly. The Third Army was now, in fact, one of the smallest field armies and had the following composition. Initially, the army had only one objective: to protect the capital, Sofia. When the war began on the 16th of June, it and its neighboring First Army remained passive and even served as a source of reinforcements. So when the Bulgarian advance against the Serbians stalled, General Dmitriev was ordered to dispatch the 3/5th Infantry Brigade to reinforce the Fifth Army. In exchange, he was promised the First Army's 2/5th Infantry Brigade. On the 20th of June, General Mikhail Savov was replaced by General Dmitriev as Deputy Commander-in-Chief, and the Third Army was placed under the command of General Racho Petrov. By the time the Bulgarian command finally decided to utilize the inactive First and Third Armies and gave them orders to take the Serbian town of Nyazovac and then with the combined force to seize the fortress of Pirot. The force facing the Bulgarian Third Army Army was the Serbian Second Army, a total of around 35 battalions, 13 batteries and 3 squadrons, many of whom were third-line troops. The Serbian defense was centered around the important road and railway junction of Pirot. The Bulgarian Third Army was ordered to attack and pin down as many Serbian troops as possible, while the First Army completed its primary objective in the north and then turned south to encircle Pirot. In order to achieve this task, General Petrov, following the orders of General Dmitriev, divided his forces into groups. The right group, that consisted of the 13th Infantry Division and 1/1 Infantry Brigade, was to attack Pirot, while the left group, that was formed by the 2/1 Infantry Brigade, 2/5 Infantry Brigade, the Cavalry Division and the 46th Regiment, was to advance in the direction of Branch. Due to the distance between the two groups, the forces operated independently. The only link between them was a single battalion supported by a cavalry squadron and 2 batteries. The left group advanced first on the 22nd of June. The bad weather, poor roads and fog hampered the speed of movement of the units, and the strong Serbian positions prevented any important Bulgarian gains. On the 5th of July, the group deployed around Tran with its 18 battalions, 2 squadrons and 11 batteries, and was placed under the commander of the 5th Danube Division. The army headquarters ordered it to attack, penetrate the Serbian defensive line and cut the communication lines between Vranje and Nis. After several days of fighting, on the 12th of July the Bulgarians managed to dislodge the Serbians from the main defensive line at Bukova Glava and penetrate into Serbian territory, but, due to the exhaustion of attacking forces, the following attacks met with less success. The Serbian command was concerned with these developments and decided to reinforce its troops with units from Macedonia, which weakened their advance there and allowed the Bulgarian Fourth Army to contain it. The left group of the Third Army, however, was ordered to retreat back to the border because it was considered needless to expose it to battle with the fresh Serbian reinforcements. The advance of the right group began on the 24th of June. After a short struggle, the Serbian vanguards were pushed back towards Pirot, and the Bulgarians took up favorable positions on the high ground overlooking the field around the fortress, from which their artillery could support any further attacks with great efficiency. On the 30th of July, the group was ordered to dig in and repel the Serbian attacks that had mainly reconnaissance purpose. On that day, however, the threat to the First Army's rear posed by the Romanian invasion of northern Bulgaria led the Bulgarian High Command to order the retreat of that army from Yazovac, which it had recently occupied. This development made the planned capture of Pirot impossible and left the Third Army defending the positions it had so far won until the end of the war. As stipulated by the Treaty of Bucharest, the Bulgarian Third Army was demobilized on the 29th of July.